Any kind of good development got its upsides and downsides. One of which was the PC game development, and one of which was the PS4 game development, or PS on in general. But these platforms have finally, its users finally became able to know the difference between a good game and a bad game. But that's not the case for mobile. For mobile game development, the user is still not able to differentiate between a good game and a bad game. Still, there is developers that makes good games, and these developers got the gratitude for making us able to know the difference between these games. One of these developers was Tencent for their Call of Duty mobile, for their PUBG mobile, and Fortnite mobile, but also the Bright Memory developer who also released his game on mobile. We got also EA with their sporting and racing games that's available on mobile, like Need for Speed, and the developer who made Grease, who also released it on mobile. This developer made a name for mobile game development, but still, that as I said, there's downsides. We got other developers who like Voodoo and Ketchup, who are using the free version of softwares of game engines, like the Unity and the Buildbox. These developers do not pay for the tools that they are using. These developers make effortless games, and still, these developers put ads in their game and in-game purchases. Tencent in their games, they are not putting ad. They are giving you the choice to watch ads. But these developers, when you start the game, there's an ad. When you start the play or the mission, there's an ad. When you die in the mission, there's an ad. When you finish the mission, there's an ad. When you lose the mission, there's an ad. Ads everywhere. And that's also the case in-game purchases. If you want this item, you must pay. If you want this item, you must pay. If you want this item, oh, okay, we will give it to you, but you must pay. And you're gonna tell me, yeah, some items are worth it, but for what? For a bad game, for easy to make game, for if effortless game that if its developer just got the heart to make a good game, I would be talking right now. But here we are, talking about these developers who don't have the who are lazy enough to make an effortless game and think that people will still buy it. Well, time changing. As PC and PS4 and PS and Xbox users became able to differentiate between these games, well, I guess that mobile also can do this. So to start off everything, let's just clarify that mobile game development isn't small. A lot of game developers in the last few years started putting their games on mobile, or putting a simple version of it on mobile. Activision with their Call of Duty Zombies, and a lot and a lot. And even that's not the the peak. It's the end. That's only the start. For instance, we got Apex Legend on mobile, which is gonna be released this year or the other. We got Call of Duty mobile, Call of Duty Warzone, Call of Duty Warzone mobile, and still Ketchup and Voodoo make their game or existing in overall. Now, to clarify something, I know that there is children out there who love their game, but I'm talking to the elder people, to the youth who are still playing their game, to the gamers who are playing their games and thinking that their games are the top of the top. 2 years from now, I was, I would understand you that because 2 years from now, game engines, and if you want to know what a game engine is, a game engine is the tool that you are seeing right now. That it combines logic and programming with art. We got Unreal, we got Unity, which I'm using right now, and we got Buildbox. Buildbox is a game engine that makes you make games in minutes. And most of these developers are making their games with this game engine. I would understand the in-game purchases or the ads even, because the Buildbox engine requires a license. Okay, I would understand this, but why also you use Unity? Don't use Unity if you will add ads to your game. Okay, because Unity, they are most of them are actually using the free version of Unity, and you still see the in-game purchases and the ads. Well, I can't say anything. So you're now asking me, do you have do you have any kind, do you know how much work they are doing to make their game good? And I'm gonna tell you, yeah, nothing. They don't do anything. And what do you know about them? Because I actually made one of the games that got a popularity on mobile in minutes, and I can make other games. Like for instance, I can make a game called Knives, if you heard of it, and I can make games like Tear the Wood, or I don't remember its name. The game is made by Voodoo, but simple game. These are not challenging. These are not challenging game, and I know there's people outside who love these kind of games, but that won't clear the fact that these developers did not do any effort in their games. And I'm making this video right now because you deserve better. You deserve better games. A well-made game. A simple, well-made game. But these developers do not deliver it. You deserve this game with no kind of cost. You deserve this game without ads. Because there is no effort in these games. That's why I'm talking. Yes, this game did not have ads or any way of monetization. If there was a way of monetization but won't interfere with the the game itself, then okay, I won't be complaining. But these kind of monetization are interfering with this game. Every time you see an ad, every time you see an ad for something in the game, every time you see an ad telling you to buy something from the game, I fucking hate this thing. So right now I'm gonna be starting a tutorial on how to replicate these games. Yeah. So now I've been replicating a game called Bullet Render. The game is a bad game made from Lion Studios, who made Save the Girl game. Save the Girl, for who don't know, is one of the worst games I have ever seen. A bad ad for the game, a bad game itself, and still 15 million download. What the fucking happened to this world? Okay, so we're gonna begin the game by making a model for the bullet. And this model is, if you told me maybe the developer cannot make models, and I'm gonna tell you again, I made this model in few minutes using a package or a tool in Unity called ProBuilder. You can install ProBuilder from the unit from here, from the package manager. You're gonna In the package manager window, you're gonna find a ProBuilder tab that you just tab install. If you haven't installed it before, then you're gonna need to download it. If you installed it before, then it's gonna be installed without internet. And just made a cylinder with extruded face, and this face is beveled to be a tip, and the ring that was around here I just duplicated it and passed it. No, I did not. I made a loop cut, and let me tell you how to make the loop cut if you who don't know. So you choose the face that you want to loop cut around. Icon mode, and just tap select edge loop, or without selecting edge loop, just around this one. Okay, and down here you should select insert edge loop. Now you got another loop that you can control. That's how I made this two rings that making the bullet look like a bullet. A 9mm I think, 7.6mm I think. But who I am to say this? Okay. After this was done, which did not take minutes, I made an enemy. Oh no, this is not the one. Ah, here it is. An enemy with simple animation. And did I forget to? God, if I did forget to copy the animation. No, I did not. Okay. Phew. Okay. So the animation of this prefab or this model is also made by Blue Builder. If you want, you can use Unity, which is gonna be Blender. I mean, which is gonna be much easier to make. Add the rigid body to make this character go down or have vertex, and made the constraints make him unable to rotate, at least until he being hit or dead. The mesh collider. For some reason, I need to select the mesh. Okay, I need to select the mesh. God, the mesh hasn't been copied. God. So if you want to edit something in the prefab that you got, made it 0, 0, 0. If you want to edit something in the prefab and being applied in everything, you just go to the prefab tab and add what you want to add. For me, gonna be a lot of box gliders. So bear with me. So right now, what is this tab is, for who don't know, this is the orthographic. I don't know. I remember the name. Well, this is the orthographic. Right, I pronounced the name right. This is the orthographic scene, where you're gonna see everything and at its true nature or true size. That's a good way to. That's a good way for making. How you gonna call it? For making the things like this what I'm making right now. To make sure that everything is being applied where you want on the same size. So okay, everything is okay. Now to make the anime work and different from any aspect or anything in the scene, we either make a layer for the object or a tag. And for me, I'm gonna make it a tag or a layer. I think a layer is gonna be the best choice. So make a layer in here, and let's call it enemy. And just in this layer tab, we make him enemy, and the shield changes children. God, I love this. I love this look, the look of this enemy. Okay, back again to the scene. Now everything is being set up, and the enemy got his lair. Now we won't be making this enemy script right at least right now. We're just gonna be focusing at making the player move. So this is old script of the old recording because I recorded this video once, but the everything got let's say that everything got destroyed. Okay, so I'm gonna explain everything now. To make the player move, we're gonna make him move by using something called the rigid body. So the rigid body can be being used for two things: for physics simulations and for moving characters. There is in your Unity learning journey, you're gonna find two things: a character controller and a rigid body character controller. You're gonna find differences between them. This one is in making games in the normal character controller, is in making games like Call of Duty. The rigid body character controllers is to make games like Carlson and physics based games. And in this game we won't be needing physics a lot. So we're not gonna be needing the physics in a tiny thing, but won't be a crucial thing. So because before beginning anything, we just make a public float for move speed. You're gonna understand now why. So now we're gonna make a private. Now there's two way I need to, before everything I need to get this rigid body, so I could be able to add force or make him move us at a certain direction. So to make this happen, hold on a second, I just want to see something. Okay, move position, okay. Okay. To make this happen, we just either use public or private. Both are actually valid to be used, but for the sake of teaching, I'll be using the public rigid body. And what public means, let's call it RB. And what public does is public is creating a field for the rigid body. You can see it here. So the rigid body field is existing in here. So now we just either we take the components that we want to take the rigid body out of, and if it was already in here, we just drag it in here. That's one way, but this way won't be good, or won't be efficient in while making a lot of levels. So right now I have this one the first level, and I got a second level. So to make multiple levels, I am going to be using something called private. Okay, now how I'm going to be able to get the values. So right here I'm going to type the name, and to specify a value I'm going to type this. And this is referring to the object that this script is attached to. This is this object. The object that this script is attached to. Dot get component. And this doesn't need any explanation. Rigid body. Okay, so one of few things that I made when learning Unity is I typed the rigid body in here, and that's false by all means. This is to add its constraints, is to add a value that this method going to be using. It's something in C#, but we want to specify a type that we want to be getting. So now everything should be okay. Now I can control the rigid body. I just when I want to move the player in a certain direction, I either use RB dot add force, RB dot velocity, or RB dot move position. And all of these got its uses, but the only thing that you want to use is depending on but what you're gonna be using is dependent on what you want to make. Okay, so one of my favorite methods to move a character is using the move position. But you might make a car games and you're gonna be using the RB dot force, that add force, or a shooting game and you're gonna be using RB dot add force to add forces to where the shot being shot. So I need to specify to first of all type RB dot position. That's one of the things that you need always to be doing. Now I'm gonna ask me why. Because if you did not write RB dot position that move the RB dot position in here, the player that you are playing with is gonna be taken or snapped to the center of the game world and gonna be glitching, and you don't want this to happen. So RB dot add force, and we're gonna want it. We're gonna specify the positions that you're gonna be adding, or where you want it to go. For me, I want it to go alongside the y-axis. You're asking me why the y-axis? It's simple, because the player main axis of movement is the y. For you it might be the z, and for other might be the x. But because my design wasn't good or I designed it wrong, it is the y for me, and I need to live with it in my entire life. So RB dot, and we need and you wanna say use vector 2, vector 3 dot up. That's a way, but that's all way. But you use this when you want the player to move in a fixed axis, but we want to move it where the camera take it. So we're gonna use something called transform, and that's gonna take the position where where your um, x is being right, the y the axis is being right now. For me, using transform that up, we're gonna be able to detect if the position of the y-axis or the other axes. There is transform that right. There is transform that forward. Forward is for the z-axis, right, or for the right axis, or for the x-axis, and up for the y-axis. So using the transform that up, I get the code knows when the player moves and always take him in this axis. But if we used the vector 3 dot up, it's gonna always take him up. Okay. So back again to my code. Transform that up, and we're gonna multiply it by the force that we want it to move with. So for me, gonna be move speed, and in something called time dot delta time. Before using time dot delta time, now when we run the script, the player move with a choppy laggy uh, move speed. That's because a simple thing. Now now we need something to make the movement speed independent from the frame rate. Now, if we run this game on my PC, it's gonna be choppy and laggy. Okay, gonna be choppy and laggy in movement, and the speed gonna be dependent on how good is your frame rate, or how good is your PC, and we don't want this to happen. What we want to do is to make this play to make the move speed independent from the frame rate. That's why if you have a bad frame rate or a bad PC, will be able to run this game as well as the good PCs. But that's only in the mechanics of the game. In the graphics, it's you're with this here. So you're gonna use something called time dot delta time, and that's all. Use it every time you want to make this game run smooth, and you want to make this game and your game independent from your frame rate. Now, if you run the game, yeah, the game itself is choppy, but because I am using OBS, but the movement is working, and the player is moving at a fixed speed and independent from my frame rate. So right now I made a mistake. I used the camera rotation. But if you want to know how I made the camera rotation, let's begin from the beginning. So first of all, I needed to specify a sensitivity value. So I made it a public. Why public again? Because I want to control it from my editor. So if I don't love the mouse sensitivity for now, I can change it later. And if I wanted to make it private, I just take the value and put it in my code. So public float mouse speed, and by default we're gonna specify it at 100, and specify another two values, which is gonna be private because I don't want anyone to control it from the editor. So the private float X rotation, and the logic behind X rotation and Y rotation is fairly simple, but I'm gonna leave it to you to find out yourself why I'm using X rotation. Okay, there's a lot of methods to make the player rotate. You can either use um, player transform, for example, dot rotate, which is a method in the in the Unity, but we don't want this. We want the player or the camera to make the player rotate around himself, to rotate with the X rotation and the Y rotation. This actually might be complex, but it's easy in itself. So before doing anything, we just gonna specify the values of the X rotation, which is gonna be plus equals the input dot get axis. Um, now when before doing anything or getting the axis, we're gonna need to know what is the name of the axis for the mouse on the X. So this is the preference. To do this, you're gonna need to go to project settings, and under input you just click axes. Now we're gonna find something called mouse X and mouse Y. The mouse X is the position of the mouse on the X axis. The mouse Y is the position of the mouse on the Y axis. Okay, these values are between 1 and 0, 1 and -1. Okay, so the name is mouse Y and mouse X. Back again to the code. For the X rotation, we want for the mouse X, the position on the mouse on the X. And about the Y rotation, we're gonna plus equal to it with input dot get axis on mouse Y. Now we need to know what to rotate. So one of the easiest way is to make a public transform, and this is called player trans, for example. And from down here, just say player trans dot local rotation equals to a quaternion Euler, 0 X rotation, Y rotation. So you're gonna ask me why I'm putting the X rotation in here. That's very simple. Just wait for the goddamn code. I I just seen an a problem. Before doing anything, we need to multiply the mouse x with our mouse speed, and to make it independent from my frame rate, I'm just gonna multiply it by time at a time. Did I write delta wrong? Oh yeah. Mouse speed in time, the delta time. Now that's all. Now why I'm putting this rotation on the y? Because it's actually I don't know. For some reason, hold on a second until the goddamn code. Ah, I hate it. For some reason, when I rotate it around the y changes, but the x, it changes the x. Huh? I actually don't know why I'm using the. Oh god. But for some reason, putting the x rotation in the y field is actually changing solving the problem. First, when I put the x rotation in here, the y rotation is actually working as magic. But if when I put the x rotation in here, a kinky problem happens, and you can see it right now. Oh, so before everything, there's an error because I did not specify the transform of the bullet. So just grab the player transform, and now everything is working fine. But when I move the mouse on the X, the player rotates around the Y axis, but it should be rotating around the X axis, right? I don't know, but I just followed the advice of wise man said this wise man said before. Don't always forget to playtest. These words actually inspired me to every time playtest and find that the problem will be solved by putting this in here. It might not be logically it might not be very true or very or have a logic in it, but it's working, and that's all what I need. Now before everything, I just go down in void on enable. Now for you, it's gonna be is there a start? There gonna be a start in here, but start always happens in the start of the game, and that's what and we don't want this to happen. So we either use awake or we either use on enable, and we're gonna use on enable because in bullet render there is a guy shooting the bullet. So in the beginning of the scene, the bullet is gonna be disabled. The bullet movement gonna be disabled. So when it's gonna be enabled, gonna be make a message or a torch for the Unity until this thing has been enabled. So run the code that's in this brackets. So I'm gonna say cursor, and cursor is the cursor API, which is gonna give me accessibility to it. Dot look state equals to, and there's a variable or an enumerator for cursor, and I will get talking about enumerators soon, but because I don't know anything about enumerators, I'm just gonna say there's something like this. Dot locked. Now in the beginning of the scene, my mouse is gonna be logged in the center of the screen and it won't be visible. Take the transform and run the scene. Now the game is working as the Android game. Now there's sharpness happening in the when you go down with an angle or go up with an angle. For the mass nerds, it's going to be simple for them to understand why. That's because when the y-axis become in here, its value won't be the same as in here. Now in here, the y-axis is going to be 1. The position of it going to be 1. I'm going to make it more simpler. Now the position of the y-axis is going to be -1. Okay, it's at least it's going to be 1. And the value of the move speed is going to be -0. And in here, for rotated it, the value of the position of the y is going to be 1 multiplied by 0.5 going to be 0.5 going to be 0.5. But when the y-axis become in here, its value become a half value, something like this. But it won't be a. But when it's gonna be multiplied by the move by our move speed, gonna be around you can say a smaller number. We just can say 0.2, 0.3, 0.1. Another is nerd or not nerd. Sorry for the miss mispronunciation of the word. Geniuses around who gonna understand why this problem happening or the value that's gonna be. But here is not like isn't like being in here. And there's a solution for the problem, but let's just make it for another video. So everything will be you can say so everything gonna be and not so let's make it in another video so I'll be able to talk further about this subject, because right now the video is about 3 minutes. If I continue, the video gonna be an hour, and I don't have the time to make this hour to monetize this hour. So again, now the problem of the player trans can be solved by putting the bullet transform as the beginning before the scene, but there's a better way. So public transform won't be a good solution, especially while making a lot of scenes. Okay, tell us a better solution. We need typing transform dot. Now when transform dot will give you the ability to not only see the transform and change the transform, you can also find the children of an object. Okay, let me explain something. The object that got the arrow before it is a parent, and everything that's under this arrow is a child. A parent, children. Parent, children. Okay? So transform that dot gonna give you the ability to see the child count, to detach children and find children. It's a good way or a good method to make shooting and other stuff. But we want to change the transform the rotation of the parent himself. The parent, which is a bullet. The bullet cam is a child of the bullet. So saying transform that parent that rotation concerning Euler blah 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 blah, gonna change the rotation of the parent. So see the scene. Restart. Now the range stops because of simple problem. Go down here and also delete this one. Now that's a simple mechanic of the game. The actually the only mechanic in the game. Now the other things are only challenging or cosmetic things that there is no need to talk about. But I'm gonna continue the series, and the next episode I'm gonna talk about collision, the difference between raycasting and the difference between on collision enter, and the different and which option is good. And I'm gonna just let's say both are good. But and also I'm gonna tell you how to get information about the object that you hit, and which is a good Unity, which is one of the most most valuable things to learn in Unity, especially because this thing is what you're gonna be using when making you can say shooting games, for example. Getting the information if this thing was an enemy or not. If it was an enemy, then make this enemy take damage. If wasn't an enemy, then do other things like making an effect. If this thing was wood, then make an wood particle effect. If this thing was metal, make an metal particle effect sparkles. Okay. But that's in the next episode.